ecosystem and develop the digital economy to a stage where it contributes at least 25.5% of our GDP and creates 500,000 jobs by 2025.
Malaysia Digital will galvanize public-private partnerships to accelerate the growth of our digital economy and drive positive transformation that ultimately benefit the rakyat, businesses, investors, and also the whole nation.
Establishing Malaysia into a digital nation, one with more in-depth, stronger and resilient economy, society, and governance. Stepping into tomorrow's digital future today.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first of what will be a series of 9 webinars, hybrid and also physical, sessions we're going to have on the topic of our data sharing, national data sharing policy. So, this just for background. But first of all, before I do that, I need to thank all of you who are participating, joining us today on this Saturday, late Saturday morning. Thank you for your time, the privilege of your time, because obviously you think this is a very important topic, and it is, and it's also very new. And I've been telling our panelists and others we're inviting for other sessions, there are no experts yet. So nobody has to be stressed out to think that they've got to give, full, killer kind of sharing and all that. We're all learning as we go along, even me as a tech editor also. So anyway, coming back to this now, this policy is very interesting. It's not data protection, it is the national data sharing policy. Very interesting. The background is that this was actually approved by the previous government, and the current government has said that, hey, this is actually a good policy, we will carry on and support it. But it is so new that even me as a tech journalist, when I tell my peers, hey, I'm going to be conducting some awareness sessions around data sharing, straight away, they seem to think I'm talking about data protection, which is amazing to me to hear. No, I actually don't know. Look, I know data protection is there, right? And data privacy has been there for years. We've been talking about it, all the headlines about that. We're now actually going to start talking about promoting data sharing, how your data is valuable to you also, because people think that their data is only valuable to the people who have taken their data, that who we have given their data to, but it's not true. And which is why we've brought a cross-section of panelists today, right? Very interesting group. We've got somebody from we've got actually 2 parties from an NGO, but one is very broad. Dato Indrani later when she comes on, right, is representing all consumers. And then you've got Dato Badlisham, who's with a company, with an NGO that I think does the most meaningful work in this country, right? They help the B40, and actually a lot of it is really helping the B20. And then we've got somebody from the private sector, the business sector, and this is one of the largest advertising agencies in the world. And they're going to talk about how they are using our data, hopefully in a responsible manner, and to give you a sense that your data is valuable. So what we typically do is I'm going to bring each of the 3 panelists on, and for about maximum of 3 minutes, they're just going to give you a sense of themselves and their organization, and also what they think of this topic, okay? And after that, all 3 will come on to the panel, share the stage with me, share the stage. I'm still talking about physical, right? Share the screen with me, and we're going to go into the questions. And by the way, the questions that they're answering are all from those of you who have already shared your questions when you RSVP'd. And very important, we take your questions very seriously. Please share questions as they come to you, and the panelists will strive to answer your questions, right? Even the ones that you share with us live in real time today. With that now, let's bring on our first panelist who's got a unique name, right? Spelling, I think I'll come to Sham's name later. Mochammad, Iqbal. Can you come on the screen, join me, and just share with us a little bit about yourself, your company?
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Yeah, as Karam has mentioned, my pronunciation or my spelling is quite unique, but you can just call me Iqbal or Muhammad Iqbal. I'm currently the head of digital and e-commerce for Mindshare Malaysia. the biggest media agency in Malaysia under WPP, WPP advertising arm. And the reason why this particular topic is important and even like quite close to me is because within our daily tasks and also our daily work with our client, we do use a lot of the consumers' data, whether it is for informing the understanding of the potential consumer for our clients, and even until the activation of their marketing activity as well, which including the personalized ads and also a segmented ads that needs to be delivered in the right manner and also to the right audience and to the right occasion as well. So yeah.
Okay, you want to share just a quick little bit about yourself also? You're being very shy here. 30 seconds.
Yeah, 30 seconds. All right. Okay. Actually, so I've been living in Malaysia for 5 years, but I've been working in this particular company for 10 years. So digital advertising has always been my interest, even when I've started my career. And yeah, I'm quite happy that I've got the chance to actually speak and also discuss together with the rest of the esteemed, like much more esteemed panelists than I am previously. Okay. So yeah, looking forward for a really fruitful discussion here.
Okay, good. Yeah, by the way, when we have questions, folks, questions should be around this topic. Please, nobody ask Iqbal whether the nasi lemak and teh tarik in Malaysia is better than in Jakarta. Okay, I already asked him and he would not answer. Okay. Anyway, with that now, let us bring on Dato Indrani to join me for 3 minutes and share.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Indrani, representing FOMCA, that's the Federation of Malaysian Consumers Association. I'm sure many of you all are aware of FOMCA. We've been in Malaysia for the last 50 years. We basically do advocacy work and raise issues with the government, especially the policymakers, to ensure that every policy that affects consumers are consumer friendly. And we also then take on complaints and we channel these complaints into policy recommendations. So this topic today, data sharing, as was mentioned by Karamjit, data protection, how data protection, data sharing is all correlated. And so I'm very happy to be here, especially being the first session, to perhaps maybe, I would say, unpack some of these terminologies so that we can have a better understanding about data.
And I think, Indrani, you were saying that you've had 35 years, right, in the consumer protection arena, right?
Karamjit, don't make me so old. I'm not that old. Not 35, but 25 years.
25, okay.
25
but
years,
definitely you'll have another 10 more years to go. So I'm just predicting the future, your future.
Yeah. I've been in the consumer movement for the last 25 years, both at the national level as well as at the regional level in the Asia Pacific region. So I've been exposed to even other countries in terms of data and also other consumer protection issues. So I'm quite pleased to share whatever experience that I have. Thank you.
Fantastic, very good. So you're being humble. When she said other countries, actually, Dato Indrani is actually a global authority also in this. So we are very privileged to have her here. Great. Okay. So, okay, now let's, before we bring on Sham, I think I don't want to bring him on yet because he will be, I don't want to embarrass him, but I've known Badlisham since in the late 1990s, almost 25 years at least. And this man is a class act if you have the privilege of knowing him. And I'll just share 2 snippets why. He just, recently went through a personal bereavement, and we would have totally understood if he said, Karam, sorry, I'm not in the right frame of mind. But after a few days, I contacted him and say, Asham, are you okay? Should we get somebody? He said, no, Karam, this is important. I want to contribute. And I was like, wow, fantastic, thank you. And another thing, today is actually his 35th, which is why I thought Indrani was 35 years. It is his 35th wedding anniversary. And yet he made time for this session and he had a early breakfast celebration. And I'm sure there'll be another celebration later on. So that's the kind of guy Sham is. And also we can bring Sham on now to the screen so that Sham cannot force me to keep quiet. So I just did, by holding him off, I just did a mini ambush on him. But like I said, I've known him for a long time.
You share all my secrets online. Hi, good morning. Very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for having me. The invitation from MDAC, Mr. Kini, and of course DNA, to my fellow panelists. I'm very pleased to represent actually an NGO, non-government organization that helps primarily the bottom 40, and it's called MyKasih, or Malaysia Kasih. I have to pitch. Can you see? Or you can see?
Yeah, of course.
The pitch. I've been involved with this NGO since 2008, but I've been a trustee, board of trustees since 2019. Yeah, after I left the corporate world, of course. I think just some data about MyKasih and
yes,
why that's
please.
significant for this discussion is that through this organization called MyKasih Foundation, we've helped over 750,000 families in Malaysia via about 400 million worth of aid, both financial, food, and other types of aid over the last, 14 years. So it's a fantastic accomplishment that you could only do with the use of technology and the use of data sharing. So I think perhaps it's quite relevant in terms of the topic that we are discussing here today.
Okay, very good. Yeah, and I think honestly, MyKasih does probably the most meaningful work in the country to help the B40. And actually, I think most of the support you all give is to the B20, right? And it really, because with data, you can really target and help the most needful. So, I mean, incredible service, the organization, MyKasih, fantastic. Okay, with that now, yeah, absolutely. So let's bring on the other two panelists also to share the screen with me, and I will start with one question which goes to the heart of why we're all here today, and then there'll be questions that the panelists have taken, which you have asked, some of you have asked, during when you RSVP. So can we get the other two panelists to come join the screen? I keep still staying stage, Sham, after 2.5 years of doing so many online, share the stage with me. still very physical, man, old school. Although I'm a tech editor. Okay, come, let's get the other two on the screen. Are they there already?
Yes, we are here.
Okay,
yep, we are here.
Okay, great. Okay, good. So, all right. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start, and Iqbal, I'm going to start with you, okay? This is the only question, by the way, for those listening, that we're going to ask the same question. All three of them will be asked, and then they'll have individual questions. So, Iqbal, what is the benefit of your data? And after Indrani and Sham, the same question for you also.
Got it. So the benefit of our personal data is actually really depends on what kind of services that you use as well, and what kind of platform that you use within the digital space, right? But in general, our personal data, whether it is our PII or our digital footprint, that is coming in from your browser history, that is coming in from your social media history, or any other activity that you do within digital space, is a really powerful information, because it actually defines and also able to inform the either advertiser or any other corporation about who you are and what's your potential interests with. So the benefit of our data will be like the simplest information will be, if you go to the, let's say, go to the Lazada, right, or go to other marketplace. Sorry for me mentioning the brand just now. So and then let's say you browse some kind of product, let's say sports shoes, and then when you go out of that, you haven't found any like specific sports shoes that you want, and then when you go out of that marketplace and then you browse your social media, and then you start seeing a personalized advertising to you that is related to the sports shoes as well, whether it is another brand that you might be interested with, or another service altogether, let's say cuci kasut, let's say the service to wash your shoes. And so that's how it's practically beneficial for you, but not only on the advertising space. If you let's say sign in to your favorite OTT platform, or let's say streaming platform,
okay,
a lot of the content personalization, when they send out like this is something that you might interested with, whether it is a specific shows or whether it is a specific genre, it is also powered by those personal data that you have. So I would say, let's say, to keep it short, the power will be to filter the kind of information that you would see, and also to sharpen the information that you would see within the digital space itself, basically.
Okay, interesting. So interesting that you use the word when you're watching movies right now. We all now, a lot still have Astro, but a lot are using various streaming platforms. So when you're searching and when you're watching movies, that is also in a way a personal data, right? Because
Correct.
It's your account. Interesting.
Yeah, it ties to your account, and even if you didn't sign up, let's say, but you accepted a cookie policy within the website itself, it will store that information of your browsing history, whether it is a specific, let's say, even article that you read or a specific video that you watch within that particular cookie, and it will be stored there, and it will be used by any platform that you visited with. To serve, the intention will be to serve the most relevant content for you.
Okay, interesting, cool. All right, good. Thanks, Todd. So let's bring on Dato Indrani now, and I think she also, let's see how she describes what cookies are also.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I think Iqbal actually already shared some of the benefits in terms from the consumer perspective. It makes our shopping experience online much better, very convenient, because as what he mentioned, if you browse and suddenly, this, I think a few years ago, I was really shocked when I used to book my accommodation online when I was traveling for my work. And then suddenly I saw, similar hotels from that particular country was coming on my Google search, and I was like, how did Google know about this? So, and I was like, wow, they're so smart, but I didn't realize that they are actually basically tracking my browsing.
Yeah.
It makes it convenient, and of course, also then for the companies, it also then personalizes, they are able to personalize the services or even products according to what I need. And as we mentioned, Iqbal mentioned about even movies on, the various channels. Suddenly you are searching for a particular drama or a movie, it's not there. But lo and behold, 1 month later, it's already available in your, in your browser. So I think these are all, of course, some of the benefits from the consumer perspective. I mean, even when we talk about from the government, when we go to government agencies, in terms of data sharing, it basically makes the government's decision in policy making much easier, because especially when our details such as our name, address, IP number is already there in the system, maybe in the National Registration Department, in the NRD, and so whenever we go to other agencies, you just everything is already within the system. You don't have to keep typing it all in. Same thing when you go to the banks and so on. So I think, of course, there is convenience. But then we also then need to ensure how these data, when it's read with other details, whether there is some sort of, in terms of security, especially when, you've seen credit card details.
Yep.
The banks have had leakages, not only in Malaysia, but also across, across the globe, where data of our credit card history has been leaked, because sometimes it's maintained by third parties. So I think this is where we need to ensure that there are certain measures in place to protect these kind of data, because then this is where you'll get a lot of scam calls, you get hackers in. So there are both benefits and I would say also the downside, and I think that's where we need to find a balance, especially where we need to get consumers' consent when it comes to private details.
Yeah. Okay. But I think, when you go and speak to these platforms or no need platform, even an app, right? Let's say even MyKasih, I don't think they use an app, but everyone will ask you for permission. We need to use your data. So we all kind of get used to it, or we kind of become. Yeah, I think there's another word that's not coming to me now, but you get used to just ticking off that, right, and giving them, because you're at that point trying to sign on for something that is of need of you, right? You're not going to delay and say, wait, let me read this, or let me call my friend and say, what does this mean and all. So it sometimes feels like you're trapped and you just need to just do it anyway, right? But it's interesting that this discussion is about data sharing, because I think when you talk about data sharing, which is the higher level, it is already a given that data is protected, right? Because when you buy a car, you already know that the car has passed security, safety protocols, right, and regulations. So everything, even your phone also, they have all passed safety regulations. So in this sense, now in this zeros and ones digital world, with our data, being used all the time, and we have more and more going online, you kind of have to now assume that your data is being held and protected in a proper way, because otherwise that organization then cannot use it on your behalf also. So, but again, I could be totally wrong, and some of you listening could disagree. Hey, you're talking rubbish, man, Karamjit. Okay, I think this is what's going on. Fine, but you look at the world we're in, right? Everything that you use, they've all passed, safety regulations, and then you use it. So, and then it's your behavior. How you use it, nobody dictates, right? You pass driving license, but how you then actually drive is really up to you. So, again, let's just bring on, this is only supposed to be for the first question now. Sham, let's bring on Sham now. And Chen, you want to talk about what's the benefit of your data?
Sure. Thank you. I mentioned earlier that this NGO that I'm a trustee of, MyKasih, has distributed 400 million ringgit in aid to over 750,000 families. Now, families, Now, a family unit usually consists about 4, so you multiply by 4 and you get about 3 million.
3 million, wow.
That we are trying to reach. A little bit of background. The only way we can do this in MyKasih is through the use of technology. So again, some background. As you know, I was the CEO of MDEC, from 2006 to 2014. And we were promoting the use of technology flagship through the MyCard. Everybody has an IC, right? Which is called the MyCard. At that time, the government wanted to see how they could do targeted fuel subsidy. Okay. So this company called Dialog, of which MyKasih was born, was in the oil and gas industry, obviously wanted to participate and came to MDEC, and then we encouraged them to use MyCard because it's unique to Malaysians.
Yes.
So that you can then, of course, have targeted fuel subsidy. That didn't happen. That was a government policy. But what happened was, because it was so unique in that sense, so I encouraged them to see how they could use it for social good. And lo and behold, they had already the intention to set up a foundation to help the B40, B20, etc. And so there's a physical input that we capture and reach out to recipients, which is the MyCard. But we need the digital data that comes from NGOs and mostly the government side. And that's how we can then be efficient in targeting the right recipients for these aids. Because I think everybody wants to help in the social good, but you'll be surprised how many people are left behind. Because we don't share data. And as we cross-reference some of these data, it's most likely that, you hit the top 10% 3 times, or 5 times each time you want to help, but you don't help the others that are below the list or you missed out. So I think, coming back to the topic of data sharing, so obviously I could say that if you share data, the 2 words that come into my mind is efficiency. You're more efficient in terms of what you're trying to do, but you're also very targeted, which is necessary for the work that we do, like an NGO of MyKasih.
Okay, all right, cool, interesting. So clearly there is value, and like Indrani says, there are concerns also, which should be there also, of course. So now let's move on to Iqbal now. The questions, these are questions, like I said, that have been asked by those who've RSVP'd. So I guess Iqbal, is kind of interesting that you choose to answer this question from Abdul Hafiz, right, who's a student, and he's asking about how do startups or SMEs, right, so also use data to fuel, their profitability.
Yep. Okay, so I think the reason why I chose this question specifically is because, again, a lot of the a lot of the digital analytic tools that is available in the market, whether it is from Google, whether it is from your own social media analytics, it is actually available for everyone to use. So as long, so let's say if you're as an SME, activate your business within the digital space, whether it is through social media or whether it is through a website or whether through any other platform, by understanding the usage of these analytics, you will be able to actually see a potential of what kind of behavior that your consumer does. As like the most basic example will be, let's say if you are a seller of particular, let's say, food within your store, right? You will know which food that people are actually mostly visiting in, and which food that are mostly people are actually buying at the end. And then from the process of viewing the page until the final buying decision itself, how many times do they browse within the website, and what kind of page that they go through, basically. So by understanding that particular part, by having a better understanding about the digital analytics itself, and which at the end will lead to a better understanding of your audiences, will help you to define whether it is to introduce more product, whether it is to introduce more discount for the particular product that people are interested in, or whether it is to introduce any other kind of channels that you might have missed right now. And I just would like to, let's say, bring back, I think at the start of the presentation, there's a QR code that you can scan to get an analytic for SME from MDEC.
Yes.
Those particular resources might actually answer these questions better than me. So yeah, I think hopefully by the end of the presentation, by the end of the session, there will be another snippet of that QR code. So I think if you are particularly interested in this area, you might be able to download that resources yourself.
Yeah, that's a free tool, right? That the government is providing to help. Yeah. Yep. Okay.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah. Nice. Thank you. You're helping me do my TSA now at the end of the session. Okay, so let's move on to now a question from I think we'll move on to Dato Indrani now. Yeah, and this is just Dato Indrani is like just forcing us to go just to the basic now. What does personal data mean, Dato Indrani, and what's the difference, right, between data sharing and data protection?
Yeah. I think when we talk about personal data, it's basically personal identifiable information to that particular individual. So of course, our name, our address, our place of birth, date of birth. So these are some of the information that would be very personal to us. And then of course, you've got additional data, like for example, regarding your health when you go to the hospital, whether you're ill, whether you have certain diseases. So it makes it easy. If you want to go to different hospitals, sometimes you have your own private physician, but sometimes you need to go for, additional specialized, care. So, you don't have to kind of carry all your records and stuff like that. So that's why then even banks, sometimes you have your own personal account, but then sometimes you want to get a loan from another bank. So instead of, getting all the same data, going to the different agencies, different organizations, the bank share that kind of information. The minute you give your MyCard, everything is already there and things like that. So I would say that this is sometimes not sensitive on its own, but when information is then accessed, I would say there's unauthorized access. This is where the problem is, or where this information then is shared for purposes of direct marketing.
Okay.
So this is where, like what you mentioned just now about, clicking on the I accept kind of notification. Sometimes because we just want to get that kind of information, we want to download. I think now we get a lot of, on our social media, certain reports, and we may be thinking, oh, this report is interesting, but then they ask you to fill up your details before you can access. And I think we as consumers, we have the right to opt in or opt out, and I think that's where we don't realize that sometimes we agree just because we want that data, and I think this is where sometimes government policies need to come in. to ensure that these securities are in place. And that's why we have the data sharing policy to ensure that these safeguard mechanisms are in place. So I would say these are some of the information that, sometimes for example, health data, for the government, say for the Ministry of Health, they would like to know if there are certain diseases that's going on, like for example, COVID-19. That was something that started first, we didn't know there was COVID-19 until 2020,
February,
2019, December,
Oh,
because
December,
individual cases, but because these were being recorded, then we saw that there was a pandemic. And so how do we then prepare ourselves? So there, as I said, there are benefits and there are downsides, but how do we ensure that this data then goes towards better policies, better treatments, and so on? Sometimes you don't need my name, or you don't need my personal information, but you can have it as an anonymous data. Someone between the ages of 40 to 45 or 50, being a woman, so you don't need actually my name. So sometimes the government can use anonymous data, and I think this is where the policy, a proper policy needs to be in place, where we can share that data, because it is good for the government in terms of even economic data, in terms of ensuring food security, is there a shortfall in a rice or things like that? So I think this is where data becomes very important.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I'll be very keen to hear how, Sham and MyKasih slice and dice the data to make sure they can help people almost in real time. But I think you mentioned an interesting point where government comes in, right? So before Sham, you come in, I think this is interesting but that's why we are having these conversations, right? This is conversation 1 of a series of 9 or maybe even 10, right? And we are, by the way, for those listening, we're not just targeting the public. So we're targeting the public, we're targeting even government also. So there'll be 2 panel sessions where it'll be open for bureaucrats and technocrats to join, and we're going to have 3 panel sessions, topics for the business section, business sector also. So, but 4 for the public. And by the way, for the public, 2 are in English and 2 are going to be in Bahasa Malaysia. The reason why we want to make sure as many people as possible are listening to this or sharing this link, right, and talking about this. So, and I think when Indrani, sorry, Sham, one more thing, when Indrani quickly mentioned that government has a role, for all of you out there, right, you also have a role, because this is still a policy. They are going to work on it to become an act where it becomes law. But in the meantime, after this, hopefully you're curious and you go online and do some reading yourself and reach out to your DON or even your member of parliament. Hey, this data sharing policy is going to happen, but I'm not happy because I think that the data is not being protected enough yet. Why are we talking about data sharing? It's your right. Or you may say, hey, this data sharing is important, but I would like to see limitations so they don't just share willy-nilly, right? So it is still very new. All of you have a role to play. A very important point for me to bring up. Sham, you want to jump in now? Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, as I said, I was the CEO of NDEC for 8 years. And perhaps I give you, for the audience, a slightly larger perspective, because, when we talk about digital data, and especially our personal data, there's always a downside and there's a risk element, and that fear always inhibits the larger population from looking at the benefits. Now, I'm not saying you have to do it exclusively. You have to address both, and on the risk side, as you said, Karam, this is where data protection, other organizations, even the private people need to stand up in terms of looking at how to do that appropriately. But however, there are always the dark side, even without digital. Those that, regardless of what kind of firewalls you put in place, somebody's going to come in and kacau you and steal data. And that's going to happen even in the physical world. Pencuri masuk rumah saya. Even though police have been ronda saya punya rumah. So I'm not saying that we excuse that, but don't let that fear, in the general public stop us from looking and asking the question of what's the benefit if we share it. And when we share it, I think it is an educational process on the public, But the two organizations that needs to actually change their mindset, I can say that I'm a private citizen now, is the government, and organizations. Yeah, these two people really need to change their mindset about what are the benefits if I put proper protocols in place in terms of actually real sharing of data. Let me just give you an example. When I was in MDEC, we took the government to see the government Estonia. Yeah, the government Estonia has a benefit that we don't have because they have just one government. They tak the state government. Yeah, but what they do is actually they force. I think the politicians at that time says, you know what, we're too small of a country to be inefficient. We need to force our different agencies to really look at what data we need to share for the benefit of the rakyat, their rakyat. Yeah? And of course, you have to work through regulations, policies, you may get parliamentary approval, blah, blah, blah. But you need to start with, I want to share for the benefit of the rakyat. I think it has to start with that, so that we can then look at the nitty-gritties and protect, on this side about what we do with data protection. So, janganlah kita selalu takut saja. All I hear is fear. Yeah, and I understand it. We need to address it. Yeah, we need to address it. But let's also have a real conversation about what are the benefits if we do share. Now, MyKasih, as you know, cannot reach those 750,000 families, 3 million rakyat if we did not get sharing of data from these governments. NGOs share data with us as well so that we can target, because the last thing we want to do is to see our $1 go to the wrong family or the $1 go to the same families and miss out the other families. Yeah. That's just the simplest part, but I'm sure there are other examples as we go along. And we need to move on. Otherwise, Malaysia ni, kita ni katak bawah tempurung, and correct. Expand our opportunities and benefits to the rakyat.
Sure. No, I love what you said. Don't let the fear. And I think honestly, when you say government and business and organization / I think business although I think you mean organization, even like non-business organizations also, right? Okay, fine. But I think we have changed the mindset. The very fact that we are having this conversation around this topic, right? The National Data Sharing Policy is, I think, I was pleasantly surprised, and I was actually very surprised. Wow, really? Yeah, we are moving now to the next level, because this is now next level conversation. So this is great. So okay, so let's move on to now back to Iqbal. Iqbal, you've taken a question from another student. I'm wondering if Iqbal is actually doing his master's or PhD himself now.
No.
Of all the questions, choose student. But this is a question. This student is asking about methods to protect privacy data, but I'm wondering whether Andrew means, and this is a student from UC Malaysia, and you got to guess because it's not clear whether it means that how do individuals, right, protect their data, or how businesses protect. So maybe you can share how Mindshare, right, protects the data it has, and then also how individuals can protect their data.
Got it. I will start with the second one, because personally I think that's where the questions are leaning into.
Okay, fine.
How do you protect your own personal data, right?
Okay.
So in this particular case, it is actually quite interesting, especially since I think about 2 years ago, when Apple releasing the new privacy control settings within their latest iOS update. I forget, is it during iOS 14 or 15? But during after that time, we've also seen that within Malaysia. So because Group M, our parent company, also do our own consumer research from year to year, right? Just to understand Malaysia consumer better, basically. What we found in particular this year is that the awareness about the value of personal data is actually been increasing. So 41%, based on the survey that we had, 41% of Malaysians are actually do more effort of protecting their own data. So what they do most of it is still on the, I wouldn't say basic, but it is a starting, which is 50% of those people who protected their data are doing that by deleting their browser history or cookie history. They catch basically. So they delete that 50%, and in some extent around 30% also change their privacy settings within their social usage, social media usage.
Sorry, did you say 70%?
No, 30%.
30%. Okay, 70%
yeah, 30%.
is fantastic.
No. So so total, if we extrapolate, around 41% have been actively doing that. So what you can do is that within the digital space, I believe those are the correct steps. That if you think let's say the personalized ads that comes to you becomes much more, let's say, annoying for yourself. And then if you think that the relevancy of the content that are being sent to you are not worth your personal data sharing, then you do have a power of restricting that within the digital space. But what I would also suggest that for the audience to be more aware of, in a place where you are, funny enough, I think my concern is actually more outside of digital. Because as an example, right, to give you an anecdotal experience that even I personally have. When you go to a building and then you need to register yourself as a visitor, you do leave your name and phone number, right?
Yeah.
So have you ever asked what will they do with that phone number and then your name, basically? Will they store it? Are they going to eventually destroy it and then making sure that that's not shared with everyone? And even I have personal experience as well. So my car, I parked in the wrong position and then my car got clamped.
Oh,
so when the building management wants to unclamp my car, they need my IC and my phone number and also my name.
Wow.
And I asked, okay, what will you do with this?
Yeah.
You know, do you have a data protection policy in place? Basically, are you going to, let's say, eventually destroy this data? And of course, I mean, it feels like at the time to outsiders, it might feel like, oh, this guy just raising the scene just out of, you know, something that is so small. But again, funny enough, we are really care about our data within the digital space, but outside of that, we might just be like already used to just putting our phone number and also name on every occasion. Especially if the somehow the authority figure that is the one that requesting it, basically.
Okay.
I think we're already conditioned to do that. I think you might want to be more aware of that part what you are doing. But of course, on digital space, there's already an option for you to delete your browser history, to delete the personal settings. For company itself, I think there might be more. It could be a long session if we talk about how company can protect their own data. But what we've already ensure is that every time there's a sharing of personal data, it needs to be hashed with a specific software. So that means in case that those data are actually being leaked or being hacked, it won't be at least those data leak won't be the actual data that you see, because it is hashed. By hash means that it is scrambled in a way, and then it needs to be translated with a specific key before
the specific key on the other side. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, correct. So that's the basic part that we do, and of course making sure that your database is secure through several means, and also to make sure that you also have a regular policy of how long you will store the data, and then what will you do when you move the data to somewhere else. So, thank you.
Okay. Good. Yeah. I think I know some organizations now, because sometimes people will use their phone and snap a picture of the screen, right, and capture data. But now it's some they're able to tell also that there was a picture taken. I know that's really advanced. Yeah, but it shows that companies are trying to raise the bar in protecting the data they have. Okay, good. So I think, Andrew, I hope that answered your question, and we'll move on now to a question that Indrani I'm going to ask, which is so this is a good one, right? We're getting to the heart of the matter. Indrani, what are the benefits of consumers, right, sharing their personal data with others? We've already kind of touched about it slightly, but I'm hoping you'll go a bit more deeper.
Yeah, I think when we talk about sharing data with fellow consumers, this is where also, especially in this whole digital transformation, and also post-COVID, during COVID, we saw a lot of online, communication. Even our purchases went online.
Yeah.
and we also started communicating online. We celebrated weddings and birthdays online, which was never heard before,
Yeah.
And it's what Dato Sham was saying, of course we need to embrace this, nowadays, you don't have to have 500 guests for a physical wedding. You can just do something through Zoom and save your cost and maybe go for a better honeymoon or things like that.
I love that, man.
So that's where I think the online community, like-minded individuals sharing, having that kind of, outreach to others. I think that's one of the things that, I would say is again the benefit. Again, to embrace data sharing, but also then as what was mentioned by Iqbal, how do we then ensure that these unauthorized access and leakages, we are protected from that. And from the consumer, I would say, point of view, like what he mentioned, some of the privacy controls that you need to have, especially even on our public profiles, like, many of us are on LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook. How do we ensure, that we have certain privacy controls in terms of, who can see our posts and the information, that can be shared. And then also, of course, when we have these solicited emails and phone calls. If you look at Singapore, I would like to give this example, and maybe this is something that the government can think of in the long run. Singapore came up with their data sharing policy, I think also somewhere around 2011 or something like that, more than 10 years ago. They actually have a policy in place, but they also have this thing called the Do Not Call registry, where consumers can actually register spam calls, unsolicited calls into that portal by giving certain information and so on to say that, this is a telemarketing call that I do not want to receive. So when you register those calls into the Do Not Call registry, you do not get these calls into your phone. I am inundated with calls. I think I would say this, unsolicited calls, I would say minimum 10, in a day. And sometimes I see that it's already been recorded as a suspected spam or it's a scam call or it's a marketing call. And I think if the government can actually have this Do Not Call registry, consumers would be much more willing to share this data. So perhaps that's something that the government should think of, to have something, emulate something what Singapore had. And then consumers would be willing to answer calls. Now, I do not even know whether it's an important call or not. But if I see an unknown number and it's not a call which has been registered on my phone, I'm thinking twice. Should I pick it? Kind of a thing. So I think for us to feel confident, I think to build trust, I think this is where, and I think Iqbal mentioned this word, for the consumers to have power, for us to have control over our data. I think these are some of the things that need to be measured, that need to be kept in place.
Better, okay. Interesting. Hey, good points raised. I think there's some interesting questions being asked by the audience also live. So Sham, before I go to you, although Barry Hui actually has a question for you if you look at the Q&A, right? But before that, Barry has asked a question that I asked Iqbal, because this is, he's saying that it's only right that consumers are paid for the use of their data. Very interesting. But he used the word demographic data. But of course, there's behavioral data. So like you say, when you're, whatever streaming services you're using and you're watching, right? And he's asking about how are companies, or not, he's using the word why are companies fulfilling this, but probably meant to say how are companies fulfilling this obligation. But because you're from a business entity, Iqbal, do you want to take this about where this pay for my data has gone? I know Hong Kong was the earliest one to want to start it. Didn't seem to go anywhere. And then, Sham, when I come to you, you can look at Barry's question about yours, right? About targeted data. And then we'll go on to a question from, if somebody can answer a question from Luke Raj, who's like a one-man, question answering, question sending machine, right? So many good questions from him. But maybe Indrani, you can look at one of the questions that Luke is asking, yeah? But to you first, Iqbal, right? About Barry's question about us being paid for our data. Is that something practical, or that was a concept that doesn't really work?
Got it. I think in this, in Malaysia context, right? as in there might be some let's say startup and also some platform that actually started doing this. As an example, I think one of the platform that I've heard of, such as either iPrice, which is the price comparison, and then there's another one where you can actually get a reward based on the sharing of your purchase transaction every day by, let's say, uploading your receipt or uploading your transaction history. You will be able to get some kind of reward point that you can exchange with the data credit or even with the specific vouchers, basically. And even when you share your data with the advertiser, with any company, let's say if you sign up on something, there's usually some kind of benefit that you will get, whether it is a sample, whether it is a voucher, or whether it is, let's say you join a membership of something, and then you get a discount of it.
Yeah.
That unfortunately, that's where we are still seeing right now. So there's no let's say a mainstream practice of paying the consumer directly for the data when it is being used for, let's say, any targeted advertising.
Mm-hmm.
Or not, right?
Mm-hmm.
So because of that, I think it kind of comes back to, at least as of now, of course, it is something that keeps developing. And also, I would like to also share that based on the research that that Group M does, now people are more, they are not really concerned about the reward when they are sharing their data, but they are more concerned on transparency on how the data will be used, and transparency on how the data will be protected to make sure that those data that I give you, you will be able to protect it to the best of my interest as a consumer, right? Because previously, in the previous years, we always see that people are more willing to share their data if you include some kind of price promotion or some kind of like price benefit. But now, the concern about protection and the concern about transparency on how the data will be used is much more prevalent rather than the reward itself. So that's why I think now the agenda is more on the how we even encourage our client to also start using that as a way to prompt the communication to the audiences as well. Basically, that your data will be used to do this in order for us to send us a more targeted promotion for you, a more relevant promotion for you, basically. So that's how it is. And then at the end of the day, again, with the current privacy control power that you have, and thankfully, it seems like the trend, this control is being given more to the consumers. If you feel that, let's say, the service that when you use a social media, again, you are in a way you're using it for free, right? Free. You are, but by exchanges of these free services, you are in some cases are able to be tracked by those social media or by any free apps that you use. And then if you feel that those services are no longer valuable for you, and you don't want to pay it using your own behavior that are being tracked, then you always have an option of course, it might be hard to stop using the apps completely at all, because again, there must be a part of your like personal life that has been in there, basically. But you do have more options to at least restrict the data that you want to share with those platforms.
If you are empowered, lah. Okay, great.
Yes, correct.
We'll need to move on. It's so scary how time passes so fast. I always get very frustrated. But by the way, for the audience who are listening, when the closing credits are being played, our panelists will be answering your questions also, right? So stay on till the very end. And I know an anonymous person asked a good question, right? Actually, he said, can we see the questions that will be asked by others? And actually, I don't know if anyone has ever asked that before. Great question. And maybe just to make sure that I'm not sure if when we got the RSVPs, what was the restrictions related? Because we also got that's data, right? We have to protect that data also. I'll check with the Malaysia Kini team and see whether we can share those questions with you all at least, right? And maybe not who asked them, but just the kind of questions. Do share your email, email with us, right? So that we can get back to you with that, right? So that's a really good question to ask. And if we can, maybe we'll try to make it that so the next time we can share Excel of all the questions that were asked, right? So you can look at it if you want to. But now, Sham, very quickly, again, sorry for picking Barry, but he asked a specific question for MyKasih, right, Sham? What do you think about his question that he asked you?
I mean, he's asking, it's good to use my card, but if you want to look at income levels, don't you need to link it up with the government database? Oh, definitely. We get our information when we take donations from this or programs from the state or the federal government. We take programs from the federal government to go down to the bottom 40. So this is not just private donations. Okay, the government is also using us to channel a lot of their aid programs, and that data comes from them. Yeah, it's called the MyKasih. Yeah, it's the government database lah. Okay, so from our perspective is, listen, at least we're going down with some form of data. But as you know, garbage in, garbage out lah. Okay? The responsibility to make sure the data is accurate or at least updated is with the holder. In this instance, it's the government. But if there was a cross-reference with other types of data, in this case, let's say the Rotary Club, okay, or other NGOs who have been going on the ground for decades.
Yeah.
We can cross-reference that government data list in our area and says, actually, this guy already moved up. And there's new families that are in the bottom list. So now we tell the government, hey, your data is not accurate, and we are going to now hit the other 50 families that are in this needed group. So I think this is where sharing of data is so critical. Yeah, as you get more efficiency, as I said, yeah, and you clean it up. And it's not just the role of government, but it's also, if you open it up, then others can add quality to it. Can I just give you, people are going to say, Allah Sham, this is always because bottom 40 give food aid. Yeah, good lah, you reach the poor. But we are tech-savvy people, we are the middle income. How does data sharing help us? Flooding in your area.
Yep.
If you ever experience flooding in your area, oh my God. Okay. Now just imagine, which we've been trying to do with governments, and NGOs and organizations. If data from meteorology, if data from Jabatan Galian, if data from, I think the River Council, if business, DBKL type, Majlis, who has a zoning of residential and commercial area. If all that data is shared, there will be private organizations who want to do good, take that data and can do predictive model about, oh my God, if this is the kind of rainfall that's going to happen with this soil slope, it may affect my kawasan who's going to be hit. Now, you can't prevent it, but at least you can try to predict it. Yeah, good. But how does that affect me personally? Now, if it happens, and we also have data about where to send help for the actual needy, based on the approved sites, then we can really target, oh my God, there are families that we have not reached, in terms of help for the flooding. The number one issue about flooding, kan? We send everything to one central location and it's the same thing. Yeah, some people need baby formula. Some people need, kain pelekat. Some people need slippers. But no, we give everything t-shirt. What about the ladies? You know what I mean? Yeah. So this is where it benefits you personally.
Fantastic. Wow, that's a really great example.
So I think I'm not saying forget about data privacy. My side is always about where is the benefit. I think if people, especially organization and you as a public, can actually add value to your government about this is why you should share data, government, so that we, the public, can benefit. That would really help as well. Of course, please protect our data. Privacy.
True, of course. Great. Thanks a lot, Sham. I think we say we can benefit. So look, I'm going to have to be the bad guy here and I got to end this conversation. But before that, each of the three panelists will do a recap for 30 seconds, their key takeaways for you. I need to do a shout out for Luke Raj, right, who has been very active in sharing, and especially on like the key risks involved in data sharing. There are points that you should look at, right? And also Anonymous has asked a lot of good questions, including why he thinks government is sleeping on the policy to protect consumers and why consumer rights groups, right, are not really proactive. So Dato Indrani, you better reply to him when the closing credits are playing and answer him, right? And May Lim, thanks for your questions also, but we really got to wrap this up now, and I'm going to go back to Iqbal. for his key 30-second takeaway, and then all three of you will repeat that. Then I'm going to do a public service announcement, and we're going to play the closing credits. Iqbal, you want to go with your key takeaways now, please?
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Karam. So
the one thing that you want the audience to leave with.
I think one thing that I want the audience to leave with from today's conversation is that you have power over your data, and you have power over your data. So you have a choice of sharing your data and also protecting your data, and also this mindset has been picked up by a lot of the major organization and major advertiser within Malaysia as well. So hopefully within this dynamic, we'll also make sure that the communication relation between the organization, the advertiser and the consumer will be much more healthier, because now everyone understands that yes, there's a power within the consumer data, and everyone needs to respect it in a way.
Respect it. Wonderful. Thank you very much. Dato Indrani, your key takeaway for the audience?
Yes, I think I would say similar, that we as consumers, we have control over data. I think we need to realize that we do have control and we can limit. But as what was mentioned by Dato Sham, benefits are immense, that we can actually have a lot of benefits when we share. But just to make sure that we keep in mind that, of course, that, for every good thing, there's always a downside. So for us to always just keep in mind, be vigilant, nothing is free. So we need to use our analytical skills when we are actually, giving away some of the information. So we need to have that balance.
Understood. Thank you. Sham?
Responsible sharing brings benefit to all, or to the larger good. Obviously, you also have to be diligent about safety, protection, risk, and all that. Like you would in your physical sense. I mean, you don't go into your house and don't lock your door, right? That's your responsibility. Okay. But again, responsible sharing of data, I think, brings larger benefit than not sharing.
Okay, yeah, that's for sure. We're hoping that the audience does take that away. And before we end now, I just got to do a public service announcement. Which is actually back to the first, what Iqbal was mentioning also, correct, this SME data-driven playbook. So the purpose of this playbook actually is to inspire readers, right, and or viewers and businesses out there, right, to think about the possibilities that data brings, right? You've already heard of the possibilities here, and it provides actually step-by-step advice, right, based on international best practices, very interesting, to help our SMEs to get started on your data-driven journey. And when I say you, of course, you may not be an SME, but you may know someone who's an SME. So do share this, right? You can scan the QR code to download this complimentary playbook. And also the second one is that MDEC is offering a complimentary online assessment tool to help your organization, right, identify its data, analytics, and AI readiness needs. So you will receive a personalized report once you complete the assessment and unveil how you can bring out your organization to the next level of growth. So this is fantastic, man. I may want to go and scan the QR code for myself for DNA, but obviously I cannot do that because we are not part of the organizing committee, but it's great. So please take the assessment now, scan the QR code, right? Or the link that will be in the Zoom chat section also. With that now, I really want to thank my three panelists, right? Superb sharing on your Saturday morning. And for all of you who are listening, very, very good questions. I'm so heartened by that. And please carry on the conversation. You play an important role in making sure that more and more people start getting aware that data sharing is also valuable, part and parcel of data protection, right? With that, we're going to end this, the first episode of our national data sharing policy, and we'll be back for 8 more segments for different various groups. Thank you all and have a great weekend. And please, panelists, stay on to answer the questions, right?
ecosystem and develop the digital economy to a stage where it contributes at least 25.5% of our GDP and creates 500,000 jobs by 2025.
Malaysia Digital will galvanize public-private partnerships to accelerate the growth of our digital economy and drive positive transformation that ultimately benefit the rakyat, businesses, investors, and also the whole nation.
Establishing Malaysia into a digital nation, one with more adept, stronger and resilient economy, society and governance, stepping into tomorrow's digital future today.